In this video, I'm going to cover four different problems, four pretty basic problems really, from Chapter 1, Section 4, Exercise 2. So for this particular exercise, we know that each of the arguments are actually inductive, and so our task is, number one, determine whether or not the argument is either strong or weak, and then depending on what we find there, we're finally going to figure out, is the argument either cogent or uncogent. So again, they're all inductive. These terms do not apply to deductive arguments. That's actually in Exercise 1, Chapter 1, Section 4, where you're determining is it valid, is it invalid, is it sound or it's unsound. These are all inductive, and so here are the two sets of terms. The definition of each is covered in a separate video, and of course you can find the definitions in the text. For an inductive argument to be strong, it needs to be improbable, not impossible, but improbable to have a false conclusion given true premises. For it to be cogent, two conditions must be met. For an inductive argument to be cogent, first of all, it has to be strong, and number two, it has to have all true premises. If it's weak, it's automatically uncogent. If it's strong but has at least one false premise, then likewise it would be uncogent. So let's practice, and again, critical thinking is a skill that requires practicing. So number one, the grave marker at Arlington National Cemetery says that JFK is buried there. It must be the case that JFK really is buried in that cemetery. So given that premise one is true, the first sentence, is the conclusion likely to be true? If it's likely to be true, then it is strong. And then for cogency, we'll have to determine if it's strong, whether or not the premise is actually true. So this argument, notice from earlier in the text, is actually an argument based on signs. The sign here would be the grave marker, and the marker indicates that JFK is buried there. Those markers are usually placed accurately, so JFK probably is buried there. And again, don't just conduct a surface level analysis. The language here, it must be the case, would seem to suggest that it's deductive, but what you need to do is evaluate the actual evidence that's provided here and take a good close look at the structure of the argument. So this again is an argument based on signs. It's inductive. Maybe that marker was misplaced, maybe it's erroneous, maybe it's been vandalized, who knows, but they're generally reliable, and so JFK is probably buried there. It's a strong inductive argument. And so given that it's strong, we need to figure out, is it cogent, is it uncogent? If it were weak, it would automatically be uncogent. So for it to be cogent, we would need to know if the premise is actually true. And here there's just one premise. The grave marker says that JFK is buried there. And JFK is in fact buried in Arlington Cemetery in DC. So this one is a strong inductive argument. Further, it's cogent, it's strong, and it's got all true premises. So let's take a look at a second example here. The ebb and flow of the tides has been occurring every day for millions of years. The Earth is thought to be 4.55 billion years old, but nothing lasts forever. Therefore, conclusion indicator, probably the motion of the tides will die out within a few years. So for this one, we've got two premises. The ebb and flow of the tides has been occurring every day for millions of years, but there's our general folk wisdom, nothing lasts forever, therefore probably the motion of the tides will die out within a few years. Now that's logically possible, but it's incredibly unlikely. And in fact, the evidence here, P1 that is, leads us in just the opposite direction. Therefore, the ebb and flow of the tides will probably continue for the next several years. Maybe not indefinitely. We know eventually the sun's going to burn out. Maybe the universe will suffer a cold death. But it would be quite surprising if this motion died out within the next few years. That's incredibly unlikely. So this one is weak, and that means automatically that it's uncogent. Weak inductive argument, automatically uncogent. Doesn't matter the value of the actual premises, the truth value of the actual premises. So two more examples real quickly. Pretty straightforward, hopefully, at this point. As always, if it's not straightforward, don't hesitate to ask for further clarification. Stop by my office, send me an email. I can make you an additional video lecture if that helps as well. So number three, the vast majority of Rose Bowl games which are played in Pasadena, California, have been played in freezing cold weather. So for strength, we'll assume that's true. Therefore, conclusion, probably the next Rose Bowl will be played in freezing cold weather. So assuming that the premise is true, is the conclusion likely to be true? The vast majority of Rose Bowl games that have been playing their Rose Bowl for decades have been played in freezing cold weather. So it probably would be the case, given that evidence, if it's true, that the next game would be played in freezing cold weather. So this one's strong. Then we need to determine cogent or uncogent. And here, since it's strong, we're looking at the truth of the actual premise. The vast majority of Rose Bowl games in Pasadena, California, have been played in freezing cold weather. And here you'd have to know something about the geographical location. That's in Southern California. Even though the games are played usually in January, the weather's not freezing cold in Southern California, even in January. So we know that even though it's strong, we know that the premise here is false, and so it's uncogent. And then quickly, one last example for this video anyway. Practice. Contact me if you have questions, by all means. Constructing the Great Pyramid at Giza required lifting massive stone blocks to great heights. And of course, that's true. Probably the ancient Egyptians had some anti-gravity device to accomplish this feat. And that, I suppose, is logically possible. There's no contradiction in thinking that this might be the case. But the evidence that the construction required lifting these big, massive blocks high in the air does not render a probably true conclusion. It's possible, but incredibly unlikely. And just think about our general background information here. Do we have anti-gravity machines really today? Is that likely to have been the case in Giza? Incredibly unlikely, even though in this case we have a true premise. The conclusion does not probably follow from the evidence. So it's really weak. Let me slide back up there. It's really weak. It helps to look at the terms here, right? It's really weak, and so it's uncogent. And that's all there is to it.